and welcome to today's video. In this video, I thought I would talk about why we don't use a notepad for coding our material. So here we've got Notepad running, and behind it I've got an IDE. By the way, just for your record, an IDE stands for an Integrated Development Environment. We often call them IDEs, or sometimes we might even refer to them as editors. Now, in terms of our editors, these are the ones that I tend to use. So if I'm doing things in C#, then I'll use Visual Studio. In Java, I would use IntelliJ Idea. With Python, I would use PyCharm. In HTML, I probably would go back to either using IntelliJ Idea, or I could use something like Notepad++, which is another piece of software that I would use. An older bit of software I used to use was one called brackets.io. And all of those would work really well. So there are different types of IDE for different types of programs. For example, with Java, I know that you can either do it in IntelliJ Idea, you can do it in NetBeans, you can use Visual Studio Code, you can also use Eclipse. So there are all kinds of different IDEs available. Ideally, you want to stick with just one, and one that you become familiar with. And for me, IntelliJ was the one that I've actually become quite familiar with. Let me just remove all of that information a moment. And what I will do is give you a quick demonstration of why we don't use Notepad. So let's just start by writing a program. So I'm just going to do a simple print line exercise. So we'll just do system.out.println, open bracket, hello world. Okay, and I'm also going to take in a scanner. So let's just use a scanner. So scanner, and I'm going to call it reader like I normally would do, equals new scanner, open bracket, system.in. As well as that, I need to set up something to input. So let's quickly do a system.out.println, open bracket, enter your name. Actually, I don't want to use print line. I think I'll just use print. So let's set up a string, and I'm going to call it name equals, and it's going to be reader.readLine. Hopefully that'll just read the line, and that's it. Okay. So what I would then do is I would take this program and I would run it through something called Java C. Java C is a compiler, or rather it will help compile my code into Java bytecode. And Java bytecode is what we run using Java. Before it would actually compile, it would check it for errors. And if there are any errors, it will pick them up and report them back to me. And I know that with what I've just written for you, there's loads of errors. You wouldn't notice it just to look at it in the first instance, because I'm getting no feedback at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of this, copy it, minimize it, and now I'm going to go into IntelliJ. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new project. It's called Using an IDE, and just run that. I'm just going to run a new class, and I'm just going to call this first program. So there you go. We've got our first program. Okay, let's copy in our code and see how bad it is. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff going on there. First of all, I don't have a main method, so none of this would actually run. So let's just get that main method in. So what I can do is highlight all of this and paste it into here. Formatting seems to have gone a bit awry. That would be because I didn't put a semicolon at the end of that line. So let's do that. It's complaining because it doesn't know what a scanner is. So let's just sort that out before it has a fit. So let's do that. Create local variable. No, I don't want to do that. I want to use the scanner. So it can't resolve it at the moment. Wonder why. Oh, I've got another problem up here. Let's put in a speech mark. Okay, now it seems to know what scanner is. So let's solve this problem. Alt enter, and you'll see now I've got scanner up here, but it's out of sync. So let's just do that. Okay, so now we've got, oh, why is that system? Oh, it's because it's capital S for system. So let's do that. So as you can see, this is what's called bug fixing. So what I'm doing is I am debugging the system by simply going through it and identifying errors before I run it. If I try to run it in its current state, I'm going to get all kinds of errors coming up. There you go, unclosed string literal, that's here. And also I haven't got the semicolon at the end here. This is not in the right place. That should be a capital S. You can see it's red, so it's kind of telling you it's not right. This needs to be a capital S also. And what's wrong with this over here? Well, what I should be able to do, and this is something you can do in an IDE, is if I do reader dot, it actually prompts me what I could type in. So as you can see, it should be next and then capital L for line, followed with the brackets. That seems to work fine. I've managed to be able to write my program now better using an IDE. What else can I do with an IDE? Well, for a start, I can actually run it. So let's just run it, and there you go. It seems to be working. So let's just type in a name. Yep, so that's working well. Okay, I'm happy with that. And let's just output the name. So let's just do something like your name is, and I'll put in name. Now, did you notice as soon as I typed in the word name, let's just do that again, plus, look at the word name up here. If I hover over it, it says variable is never used. So that's something really useful to know, because that way then I know that the variables that I'm using at the moment aren't being used in the system. So I'll create name and you'll see that it lights up. So that's really good. There is something else that you can actually do as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an equation. So we're going to use a couple of integers. So I'm going to do num1 equals 1. And I'm going to create another integer called num2, and that equals 2.2. Now you'll see that the whole thing's got this crazy line going under it. And if I hover over it, it will actually say required type int provided double. That's no good. I need to either use this as a double or use it as an integer. In fact, the point is I wanted to make it an integer, so I made a mistake there. So it should be 2. But as you can see, as I was typing it in, it identified the error and flagged it up to me. So what about a total? So let's create a total. So actually, I'm going to create it like this. I'm not going to declare it. I'm just going to write it. And look, it's already identified a little error there. So let's just do num1 plus num2. Okay, now it's kind of highlighted that this is a problem. So cannot resolve symbol total. What that basically means, it isn't working right. Now there are a couple of suggestions on the bottom. Alt, Shift and Enter will create a local variable called total. So let's just try that. Alt, Shift and Enter. And immediately it's suggesting I either create it as an int, a long, a float or a double. So I wouldn't be able to do that using Notepad. Also, let's output the total. So I'm going to do SOUT. That's a shorthand way of writing the system.out.println. So I can actually do that. I can actually create some shortcuts that I can use. So I'm just going to say the total is, and then just simply do plus total, like so. Now what I can do is I can put a little dot here. Now what that little dot is, it's a breakpoint. And what will happen is if I run this application in debug mode, it will get to that breakpoint and stop the program. So I'm going to show you that happening. So up here, we've got these run buttons. Let me just run the application just to show you it running. Okay, so I typed in the name Fred, press return, it'll say your name is Fred and the total is 3. So this is working fine. Let's debug it. So when I run the debugger, hit that, I'll type in the name Fred again, just like I did before. But this time what happens is it gets to the breakpoint and stops. And what it does is it shows me down here all the values of everything that's going on. So it's showing me what the reader is, so I can view the reader. I can look at the name. The name currently equals Fred. I can also see that num1 equals 1, num2 equals 2. So I'm able to see what's going on before it runs this application. And can you see up here, it's actually showing me num2, 2, num1, 1. So it's actually putting the values in. And I can use this little drop down to see what we're doing with those values. So that seems to be working really well. Now over here, we have some more tools. So I've got step over, step into, force step into, step out, and run to cursor. So I could put the cursor down to here and say run to cursor. And what will happen is it will run to that cursor. now you'll notice that total has a value because we've actually run past that. And you'll see here that num1 equals 1, num2 equals 2, total equals 3. Up here, by the way, you can actually also see that name equals Fred. So I'm able to see exactly what my variables are doing whilst the program is running. So this is kind of like freezing time. This is like stopping time for a moment so I can actually see what's going on. Now, if I was to step over, this will just carry on running and then it will stop. So I can step over again and you can see it's now finished. We've now disconnected from the target VM and it's showing me what the address and what the transport socket is. Okay, so you can see that the whole program did its thing. The total is 3, which is what it should appear. So I can take out this breakpoint and all I have to do is click in that area. So anytime you're using a piece of software with an IDE and breakpoints, you'll probably find the breakpoints are located along this area. Okay, it's normally next to the line number. So that's the reason why I would use an IDE over Notepad. And I hope you can see the benefits of using an IDE. If you liked what you see, please give me a thumbs up.